Hey, good morning. This is a solo episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles Podcast. You guys know I do a weekly group panel. I do a weekly group panel live stream on Sundays on Facebook and Instagram and all, not Instagram, but Facebook and everywhere else. So this is a solo episode today. This is the origin, let you guys know the origin of the Knucklehead Chronicles, how it started, where it came from, how did I come up with this name, all that. I'm going to run through that in like 30 minutes. So I need for you guys to do me a favor, stand by, like Donald Trump told the Proud Boys at one time, stand back and stand by. All right, and welcome back. So before I get any further into this thing here, I want to first of all shout out my wife, my lovely wife, Melissa, who I am operating my podcast now on a Rodecaster Pro, and she believed in me enough to where she felt like if I had this piece of equipment that this would help me. So if anybody out there is listening to this podcast and you're familiar with the Rodecaster Pro and the things that they do, this thing is absolutely amazing. So I want to shout her out first things first before I get too far into the game. So, honey, if you ever get to listen to this, I'm not sure if you do, but if you ever get to listen to it, thank you, thank you, thank you. So let me go ahead and give her. That's probably the wrong sound effect. That's right, this one. Nope, that's the Avengers. Hold on, I'm still learning. There we go. All right, honey, that's for you. That is for you. Thank you for this piece of equipment. So let's get into it real quick. Let me cue up my background music here. All right. So this is the origin of the Knucklehead Chronicles, and I want everybody to understand this. The Knucklehead Chronicles started out as a book that I was going to write. Anybody that knows me knows I have a story to tell. So what I did was a few years back is that I told my life story, and I think in a 10-part series, and I put it on Anchor some time ago, and I actually lost it. And I was very, very upset about the fact that I lost it. But so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give you guys my life story in 10 chapters or less. So we're going to try to anyway. So you guys can understand the origin of the Knucklehead Chronicles. It wasn't just something that I just came up with one day and said, what Terry talking about now? You know. So here's the origin. I'm going to give you guys chapter 1 today. Now, this is the origin of Knucklehead Chronicles, and find to fully understand where this podcast came from. You really have to flow with me just a little bit. Okay. So at the age of 17, I found out that the man that raised me for 17 years of my life wasn't my father. Okay, that he wasn't my daddy. I had no idea of who my real father was. My mother came to me. She came to me at 17, actually at 16. I'm sorry, came to me at 16 and said, he's not your dad. And this is how it came about, right? Is that I come from a very small town in North Carolina, and so everybody, and you know how small towns are. Everybody knows everybody. All this stuff. So we only had one high school, one junior high, and this and that. So I was in high school, and this young lady, actually I was in junior high, and there was this young lady that I was just crushing on big time. I was like, man, she is something. She's high powered, all of that. I said, I'm going to be her boyfriend, right? So I go and I tell my mom, I say, Mom, I said, I got this girl to school. She's great. I want to talk to her. And she says, well, honey, who she is? And I was like, okay, this is her name. And so, and she says, no, you can't date her. I said, what you mean? What I'm saying? That's who I like. What you mean I can't date her? What you talking about? And she says, you can't date her. I can't tell you, I can't tell you why, but you can't. I was like, well, Mama, you're going to have to tell me why I can't date this woman, this woman of my dreams, apparently. So, so I didn't, I didn't date her. I wanted to. I was mad at my mom. And so what happened, I think the very next weekend, she let me suffer for a week before she told me. And she says, well, baby, this is the reason why you can't date this young lady. It's because her father is your father. What? Where did that come from? And why is it that how we get here? I thought the man that, so you mean tell me, and she was like, no, your brother's father isn't your father. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and and so my mother made me so mad that day. I'm like, how could you not tell me who my dad is? At that point, I forgot that this young lady is now my stepsister or my half sister. And I'm like, what? How do we get here? Somebody tell me. Somebody explain to me how we got here. And I was at that point in my life, I was so mad at my mom. I was like, I can't believe you. And so for years, for a few years there, I was mad at her. And so every woman that came into my contact, she paid for it. She paid the price for my mother, which even to this day, was a very bad move. Of course, as I grew up and I went through my process, and and it still took me many moves. It took me 1,000 mistakes to finally wake up one day and say, you know what, this is kind of crazy. You should do, you shouldn't do that. Tell you why you're doing it. But I didn't think about that. Right. So at that time, I found out that my girlfriend at the time, or later, was pregnant with my first daughter, Taniqua. Taniqua was the light of my life. She was, but I was 16, 16 going on 17. And I knew nothing of being a father. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that at 16, 17, when I was 16, 17, it's a definite shift or change. The way society is or was then isn't the way society is now. And so it was, some of the things were similar. But things like the child support process and the court system and how they did things was different back then versus how they are now. And it's not because of COVID or anything like that. It's just society as a whole. And so I struggled. I struggled for a long time. And so I figured, in my feeble brain, I figured if I have to suffer, everyone that I run with or come in contact with me also has to struggle. Right? That was my thing. That's what I believed. Right? And so I did that many years. Even my baby moms, Taniqua's mother, suffered because I was mad at my mom. For years, I couldn't understand why she would not tell me who my dad was. And now, at the age of 45, people ask me, I haven't been asked this in a long time, but people used to ask me, well, Terry, don't you want to know who your dad is? And my first question is, nope, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? At 45 years old, I really don't care now. You know, because he knew of me, whoever my father is, he knew of me and decided I wasn't worthy of the talk. Now, here is the thing that's kind of intriguing, is that the young lady's father that we talked about in the beginning here, the young lady's father, we actually spoke once before. Now, I have a half brother that we talk. I haven't talked to him in years. The last time I talked to him, he asked me for some money. But that was the last time we talked. And that was last week, as a matter of fact. And he called me up, or he actually Facebook inboxed me and said, I want some money. Like, what? You hey, bro, how are you? And so, yeah. But anyway, me and him, we spoke. We spoke. The father, his name is, I'm not gonna call his name. No, I'm not gonna do that. But we spoke, and we had a conversation, and he kind of apologized, kind of, sort of, in a sarcastic / snarky type of way. So I really didn't take it seriously. But at that point, when we talked, only thing that I wanted was the opportunity to get to know him. I wanted him to know me as a son and him as a father. Now, I gotta tell you, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have that Will Smith moment where I had to ask my then wife, why doesn't he want me? You know, why doesn't he want to be a part of my life? Why is it such a struggle? Why is this? Why is that? The same questions that we ask today. Is that why can't we be a part of our daughter's or their son's life? Why are we running and why are we going and why are we this and that? So it's the same thing. It's the same premise I went through as a young lad, thinking to myself, going, why doesn't he want to be a part of my life? What I found out later was that the reason why he didn't want to be a part of my life was because he was too busy lying to his wife. You know, even though I came way before his wife did, he was still lying to her about what was going on in his life. He had like 10 kids. You know, I have like 6 or 7 stepsisters or half sisters, and I got a couple of brothers out here someplace. But he was still cheating or sleeping with some of these babies' mamas. And so he didn't want to get caught up. I get it, right? Well, no, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. But this is where the fuckboy mentality, I got to be a player type of mentality, it kind of has to go away, because you're not hurting only your children, you're hurting yourself, because you have to maintain that lie. You have to maintain that lie for however long you got to maintain it, and it's not worth it. It's not worth the emotion. It's not worth, all of that. And we still will sit there and try to do it. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to me. But, life goes on. And it took me a few years to get myself together. Now, it's one thing to come into the light of knowing there's an issue. It's another thing to fix the issue. Because I came into and this is the truth here in chapter 1 of the Knucklehead Chronicles again, is that this. I came into the understanding of what my issue was at 17. But I didn't do anything about it until I was 30. Oh. Let's repeat that one more time. I said, I came into the fruition of my issue at 17. But I didn't do anything about it until I was 30. You know how many times? Come on. Do the math. 17, I found out. 30, I did something about it. And so 13 years passed. You know how many people, you know how many women I destroyed between the ages of 17 and 30? Because I didn't want to deal with my nonsense. I didn't want to deal with my hurt. I didn't want to deal with my pain. Why do we go through all that? Right? Fellas, if you're listening to this podcast, why do we go through that? 13 years I went through and destroyed people. And when I was going through that season of my life and I was destroying people, I had no care in the world about it. It was, I'm going to destroy them before they destroy me. So when I tell you that the whole, I'm gonna get it, and that the whole meaning was, the whole belief, I'm gonna get you before you get me type mentality. That was my mantra. That was my mantra for years. I'm gonna get you before you get me. It's just not gonna happen. I'm gonna take care of that before you get me. And throughout this entire chapter 1 of Knucklehead Chronicles, man, I went through it because I just could not trust a woman at this point. I was so mad at my mom. My baby mama put me through hell because I was a young father. And I didn't know how to navigate this thing called life at 16. I'm still in high school. You know, I was washing dishes at the local grocery store, trying to make ends meet. You know, and the first few years of my daughter's life, I was in and out. I was in and out. When she was a baby, I saw her a couple times as a baby, and then once she became younger, once she became 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, I was mostly out of her life because I was too busy being me. I was too busy doing stupid stuff. I was too busy getting married for the first time. Actually, yeah, the first time I got married. But we'll get into that in the later chapters. But I had to walk out this pain, and it wasn't until years later that my daughter finally forgave me and said, "Dad, I want you." It took me a while. And she wrote me, and I tell this every time we do a group panel of the Knucklehead Chronicles with me, Kevin, and Dwayne, and Ephraim. Anytime I do a group panel and it comes up, I always bring this up, and I say, you know what? My daughter, at the age of 14, I never forget it, at the age of 14, she sent me, or wrote me, a 4-page letter telling me how much she hated me. I want y'all to understand something. That's not something that we take for granted. You know, four pages of just you telling me, and she writes small. She write like that. You know, quite small. She wrote a 4-page letter, told me how much she hated me. And I had to eat that. And she read it in front of me. So it wasn't like she put it in the mailbox. It was like, read at your own leisure. No, she read it to me, to my face. She read it to my face like that. I'm totally using the wrong patch here, and I'm trying to figure that out. I'm going to get it together. That's the scary one. That's the crickets. All right. That's the laugh one. I got to get it. So, yeah, I mean, she signed it, and she wrote this letter to me and then read it. Because I thought I was going to pull a daddy move. Let me go see my daughter. You know, let me go see my daughter. She said, okay, come on and see me. She said, come on and see me, Dad. I appreciate you. Come on. And see, so I get there, and she starts reading this letter. And she said, I really hate you. I don't know what I ever did to you. This is the question. And see, we all have these moments in our life where they're life-changing, when they're life-altering moments. And this particular moment for me was just one sentence. And she said to me, she said, Dad, in this letter she wrote to me, and she read it to me, she said, Dad, why do you hate me? What did I ever do to you to make you not want to be a part of my life? What did I do? And when I tell you, in that moment, life stopped in that moment. Because it was like, there was no response. It was you talk about an awkward pause. That was definitely an awkward pause. And I had to go back and I had to say, so you get the stutter and the stammer, and you're like, I don't even know what to say in that moment. Now at this point, I was 24, maybe, when I had this conversation with my daughter, and it was like, man, I don't know, I don't even know what to say, and so I think I made up some kind of excuse, and just to appease. It wasn't the real answer. It was just something to appease her. And then I gave her a real answer later. This is after I went through my process. But we got a long way to go before we get to the process. But this is just the first chapter. This is just in the beginning. And I can tell you, and in the beginning, it was hard in these streets. Because I did not know what I was doing. Part of the reason why I didn't know what I was doing because I wasn't armed with the right information. Now, my mother and my father, who are both ministers, or my stepfather, were both ministers in the church. And they taught us, they brought us up, me and my brother, they brought us up in the church and, the way of the Lord, it was like the Mandalorian. This is the way, And so, but they never gave me the tools straight up. They didn't say, this is what you do. This is how you take care of your baby. This is how you do this. This is how you father. This is how you handle your business. This is how you pay bills. I was never armed. So people say, well, you should have just known how to do that. No, for me, there was no way to just know, because at 16, once my mother told me that my father, the man that raised me, wasn't my father, everything that he ever taught me went away. If I could be honest, everything that he ever taught me, up until the age up until 16 years old, went away. That's even the love for the church. That's even the respect for women. Everything that he ever taught me went away. At the moment, because I felt at the 16, that was the biggest level of rejection. At the biggest level of betrayal. The biggest level of betrayal. I was like, are you serious? You think I'm going to listen to you now? The level of hate, the level of petty that came behind that was tremendous. Understand. I was like, I'm not messing with you. I'm not listening to nothing else you saying. You can whip me. My daddy still tried to whip us at 15 and 16. I'm like, dude, come on, man. I'm 16. I'm gonna take a lick and keep. I'm at that point in the game. I'm like a Timex. I was like a Timex. I'm gonna take a licking and keep on ticking. You understand what I'm saying? But you really couldn't. But you really could not. Tell him that it was a constant. Get over here, man. Whatever, dude. For years, I did not listen to anything else. At the age of 16, the respect that I have for him, up until then, I lost it the day my mom told me he wasn't my father. And so, for many, many moons after that, the young lady felt the gist of why I disliked her. I would never say I hated my mother. I never hated my mother, but I was severely disappointed in her. And it was like, I can't do you right now. But I never lost the respect for her to the point where I wasn't listening to her. Now, my dad, that dude that raised me, his name was Walter, by the way. And and those of you who have listened to that story before, I use code names because I don't want to call people out. But him, my stepfather, his name was Walter. That's his real name. I had to go back, some years. I had to come back just recently, not recently, but maybe 10 years, and had to go back and apologize to him for the way that I treated him. Because the level of pet, I'm telling you, I stopped listening. I stopped giving a crap. He would look at me. I would cuss him out. This is after I'm out of the house. I'm grown now. I'm married. I'm married now. I was married now. And I would go to the house and visit my mom's. And yeah. But we gonna get into chapter 2 later because chapter 2 we're gonna talk about my first marriage because I've been married 3 times. So get ready. So those of you who have never listened to an episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles, this was chapter 1. This is the reason why I do this show. This is the reason why I do the group panel on Sundays because I want to be able to help some young men who has gone through, who's hated their mom, who has mommy issues, who have daddy issues, who have children issues, who have have this different mentality that doesn't bode you well. We can sit here and we can talk about how you think that what you're doing is right and how you're going to get through it and how you're going to walk through. But truthfully, you're not getting anything handled. You're putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm, as they say. You're putting out fires. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. There are so many different mantras you could put here. But the truth is, we don't have it together. We don't know the beginning stages of putting it together. So here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you young men that's listening to this. If you're like me, now I'm a hard-headed dude. Anybody that know me will tell you. My mother, if she was still here, she would tell you. My aunties and grandmas, my auntie and my grandma would tell you. I'm a hard-headed dude. And it took me to lose absolutely everything in my life before I realized I have purpose. It took me everything in this life to realize that I mean something to somebody. Not just myself, but to other people. And so we can sit here and we can blame other people for our troubles. I could sit here, I can blame my mother who is no longer with me. I can blame her and say, well, it's your fault that I am the man that I am. Yes, I can say that. Want to know why? Because I had to go through the fight. I had to forgive her before she passed away. I had to say, okay, Mom, I understand that you wouldn't tell me. I don't understand why you wouldn't tell me. But I'm glad you did at the end of the day that he wasn't my father. Now, she don't know who my dad is. Because she was very promiscuous. She has an idea. It was narrowed down to 2 men. But I'm the man I am because of what she did. I know that doesn't make any sense. Listen, hear me out. I am the man I am now because of what my mother did. Because it taught me to forgive. It taught me how to grow up. It taught me that some things are just better. It's just one of those things that, despite of what hand you were dealt, you can still overcome and come out on top. You know what I'm saying? You can still come out on top. I tell people, I used to put this as an analogy, and I got another minute here before I have to go, is that it's like playing poker or spades or whatever game you like to play, bid with, insert card game. Okay. But whatever cards you were dealt, you either play that hand or you fold that hand. Right? You either play that hand or you fold that hand. Now, we can choose to play it, because that's the way life goes. Or we can quit and throw in our hands. Totally up to you. It's a choice, right? So I took the first chapter in this book, or the first chapter in this series again, to tell you guys what it was for me. I'm giving you guys chapter 1. This is the origin of the Knucklehead Chronicles. This is how Terry got started. This is how Terry started his life, first marriage. Before I even get into my first marriage, this is chapter 1 of this is the beginning, the origin. All right. So you guys, I hope that you enjoyed the chapter 1 of the Knucklehead Chronicles, the origin. Okay. Please make sure that you go to the website www.knuckleheadchroniclespodcast.com. On that website, you can go and subscribe to the email list. You can go to the merch store. I do have merch in that store as well. T-shirts and hoodies and whatnot. Leggings for the ladies. Face masks, all that. Make sure that you go and visit for me. If you would like to be a part of the Knucklehead Chronicles group panel on Sunday, give me an email at knuckleheadchroniclespodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to have you guys on, have a conversation. I'm always looking for guests and show topics. Excuse me. So also with that, if you have a show idea you'd like me to talk about, me and the guys talk about, give me a shout or shoot me an email again at knuckleheadchroniclespodcast@gmail.com. All right, well, we're going to get on out of here. You guys have a great rest of your day. Love y'all so much, all of my listeners that are yet to come. I appreciate you. I believe I'm going to get a flock of listeners, and, I just believe that. So thank you so much. We'll see you guys on the flip side. See you tomorrow, or see you next time on chapter 2 of the Knucklehead Chronicles. Have a great one.